today's video, I made a working Five Nights at Freddy's animatronic by transforming this regular old claw machine into a real-life spring Bonnie from Fnaf Into the Pit that even actually jump scares. So let's get right into it. So we're going to be transforming this entire Fnaf claw machine into the Pit spring Bonnie. I mean, look at it. It's literally a bear that jump scares out of the ball pit. I don't know how anyone thought to make this not into the pit yet, because that's what we're going to be transforming in this video. So let's go to the first part and see what we need to disassemble from it. So before we can turn this thing into Spring Bonnie, we gotta first take it all apart to see how it works and how we're gonna fit Spring Bonnie inside of something like this. So the first thing we did was take apart every single piece of this animatronic. That included completely taking off all the fabrics and stuff all around it that kind of hide all the different moving mechanical parts of it, and we had to completely destroy the actual bear head inside this animatronic. We did that by first taking off its little ball pit hat that it had on, and then destroying the bear itself, which was really fun and satisfying to do. First, we had to unscrew him from the base so we could disconnect him from there so we can put Spring Bonnie in there, obviously, and then we just went to town on this bear. First of all, we started ripping off all the fabric from him to get it off to see how the inside of the bear works, and then we just started smashing up this bear. Honestly, for no reason, we just thought it was really fun. We had a giant funny bear head that we could smash to pieces. And then we realized this bear head hole in the ball pit is much too small. So, Withered, what are you doing with the animatronic right now?
So right now, we realize that the head is just way too big for the original hole that was previously fabricated onto the balls. So now what I'm doing is I'm essentially just cutting a hole. Well, first I'm actually making a pattern so I can cut a hole so that the head can fit right through.
So, Michael, now that we got the hole cut out for Spring Bonnie, how's it even gonna work?
So essentially what's going to happen is that we need to find something that we can put inside the head to elevate it so that when it pops out, it ends right where we want it to, which is right around here. So let's go find something really quick.
Alright, so let's try out our very first test run and see. We found something to put inside. Hopefully, he jumps up. Alright. Uh-oh. We fixed it. Here is our very first test run. Hopefully it doesn't break. Come on. Be gentle. Oh! It did it! Oh, the first try! It jumped up! Spring Bonnie! This is gonna work so well. Oh my gosh! But now that it's all completely taken apart and disassembled, let's see how we make Spring Bonnie himself.
Alright guys, now Puggo asked me to help him on this project. He needs the head printed on a 3D printer, which means I need to get a file ready to get printed. So let's jump into my workshop and get that done right now. Okay, so we have our model right here. This is a pretty good model, I would say. It shows us all the colors that we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and just quickly download it, cut it up, and I'll show you guys what we get. Okay, so now all the printers have been finally cleaned off of any printed parts that were left on the print bed from my previous builds. This has our files that we need to get printed. The printer is gonna read these files and follow a path that it needs to go and extrude some plastic and build everything that we need on all 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 Elegoo Neptune 4 Max printers. Anyways, let's get to printing right now. All right, guys, all the parts are finished printing. Let's tape it up and take it over to Puggo to build this animatronic.
But before we go any further, making an animatronic is extremely expensive. So it's time for some financial obligations. And this video is sponsored by Raycons. The holidays are an amazing time to get tons of gifts for yourself. But what do you even get for other people in your life? Maybe get them something that they could use every single day and could use multiples of, like Raycons everyday earbuds. Not only do Raycons make a great gift for anyone on your nice list, yes, even my son, Raycons also come with active noise cancellation, which is a must-have for me while getting jump scared, but also a feature that can be difficult to find at an accessible price point until now. If you're getting these as a holiday gift, now is the time to order. The cutoff date to make sure you get these in time for Christmas is December 15th. And don't worry, if your recipient is not as happy as I am, Raycons offer a 30-day happiness guarantee and easy returns. They even have a cool cool protective case cover. I mean, just check out this design. It even has a cool, creepy concrete design like your favorite abandoned pizzeria. Raycons even have wireless charging, so I don't have to take them out of the protective cover to get 90 minutes of battery in just 10 minutes of charging. Now get your very own pair of Raycons, or even a pair for anyone in your life. Go to buyraycon.com/Puggo to save big for the holidays and get up to 25% off site-wide. That's right, you can get up to 25% off everything on Raycon's website when you go to buyraycon.com/Puggo. Thank you for Raycon to sponsoring this video. Now back to building. So the next thing we had to do was make Spring Bonnie himself. And how we did that was with 3D printing. Making Spring Bonnie any other way would be way too difficult. If we decided to maybe cut it out of foam or try to build it out of cardboard or something, 3D printing is the best and simplest way because you just take a file, you put it into your 3D printer, and it prints this entire thing. And then all you have to do is basically fabricate and detail it. So we have every single Spring Bonnie part we're gonna need here. Of course, the main head itself, which is absolutely massive, and it looks super cool. And then we have all the other parts here, like his little Spring Bonnie nose that we're gonna use. We have both jaws. We have his top jaw of teeth that we're gonna detail and make scary and bloody, and his bottom jaw of teeth being a lot bigger. We have both of his eyes, as well as his eyelids that would go around it, so we can detail those, because he has tiny little eyes that'll look really cool. But an issue we ran into is we only have one part of the jaw. The 3D printer kind of failed, and it only printed us one part, and we don't have enough time, because we have to make this video, to 3D print another jaw. So basically the way we're gonna fix that is by taking the jaw, covering it in masking tape and such, and making a fake duplicate version side of this jaw to double it on the other side. So after we have this head already 3D printed, the next thing we have to do is start fabricating it. So let's turn this black Bonnie into a yellow Bonnie. So, since he's fully 3D printed, now we have the fabrics that we're going to color him in. These are the most accurate colors we could possibly find when we went over to Joann's. So this darker color is going to be his base color. This is going to be the color that covers his entire head. And this lighter color is going to be the detail color, such as the color that covers his snout and his ears when we build those out of foam. So, let's start fabricating. So the very next thing we had to do to start making this into Spring Bonnie was basically turn the 3D print into a Spring Bonnie with a little bit of fabrication. Now basically what that means is you take the certain colored fabrics that the animatronics are. For example, the Spring Bonnie is a dark yellowish orange as his main color, and his lighter colors are a light kind of, I don't know, marshmallowy yellow, if that makes sense. And then you take those fabrics and you just glue them over the 3D print. Any kind of glue will work, but hot glue normally works the best because it's the easiest, it'll hold on to it, and it's, you know, you can smear a lot of it around. And then you want to make sure when you do it, you're pulling on the fabric really, really tightly so there's no wrinkles, because when you look at animatronics like Spring Bonnie, obviously there's no wrinkles in the fabric. So different ways to do this is by buying a stretchier fabric and you stretch it over as you glue it so there's no wrinkles, or you can sew the fabric and have a little bit of cuts and seams and you sew them together to give it a rounded shape, or you can simply do a big seam down the middle, which is what we did, and splitting the head in half so there's a big front part and a big back part. And then for fabricating smaller things such as the snout here or the eye rings that are getting fabricated here, they don't really need to worry about wrinkles because they're so small, or you don't need to worry about cuts either because once you glue it on, there's not much wrinkles as long as you pull it tight. And then you need to get the fabrication detailed like this. Now, so one thing that we're doing to make Spring Bonnie look even more realistic, looks like he came just out of the game, is we're pilling the fabric. Basically what that means is the fabric gets this weird, nice, pillish material as parts of it roll up and they create these little balls and wrinkles and fuzz and stuff, so he looks worn down and he looks used. One of the best ways to do that is actually rubbing it on yourself. So what we've been doing for a little bit is you take it and you just rub it all over your clothes to give it that worn, dirty, used look, and it takes that soft, flat fabric, and then it gives it this cool pill effect that goes over it. So we have to rub Spring Bonnie all over us, basically every single part of him, to get him looking really accurate. And then we'll keep fabricating it. As you can see, we have some of the head so far, but he's not done yet, so we have even more to do. So let's do that. So now that he's all fabricated, it's time for test number 2. Let's see if he works.
Step right up.
Please don't break. Please don't break. Come on.
By the prizes within. Try to win if you dare.
Whoa! Whoa, my gosh. Okay. This is working great so far. This is gonna be the coolest animatronic ever. Oh my gosh. Okay guys, to give you a quick brief explanation of how I added the fabric onto here, I first started by cutting up the different parts by the colors of the fabric. So the nose and eye sockets were a different color, therefore I split up into different pieces and printed them separately. The main head was printed in 2 pieces just because it was way too big. I attached them together, and simply by pulling and stretching the fabric over, I covered it. And I only allowed for like 1 seam, so I think it looks really good. And we even peeled the fabric just to give it a nice distressed and texturized look versus the more flatter texture I had before. All that's left now is just to really complete the head, attach it onto there, and well, the rest is history. So next up we had to work on the ears, which was a lot bigger process than anything else, including the 3D printed head. The reason it was such a big issue working on the ears is because basically it would be much too heavy if the ears were 3D printed on top of the head. The little piston mechanic in the animatronic, when it jumps up, can only hold so much weight onto it. So if we added the weight of these ears, it'd be way too heavy and it wouldn't be able to jump up at all. So we had to come up with a different solution on how to fix this problem. And well, the best way to do that is simply making the ears out of foam. But that's a lot harder and a lot more time consuming, so let's show you how we did it. The first thing we had to do when making the ears out of foam was get a good ear pattern. So we took this paper and held it up to Spring Bonnie to see what height and thickness these ears should be to be accurate. Obviously the 3D printed head can be as accurate as possible because it just takes the model right from the game, but these ears we have to sculpt and model our very own using foam. So after getting that nice pattern with that, we take those ears and we trace them onto the thick foam we're using. The foam we're using is about 2-inch thick green foam, which works really well. Since ears are about 2 inches thick in diameter, I guess, it works greatly. So getting those ears traced onto the foam and then cutting each out, one for the left ear and one for the right ear, it's important to label them so you don't mix them up. And then one of the hardest things you have to do with the ears is shaping them. Now shaping them, you can't really base off anything or any models, you just gotta start cutting and cutting even more. And you can see that there was a lot of different cuts and shapes molded to make these ears extremely accurate to what Spring Bonnie looks like. We had to make it look like Spring Bonnie's actual ears. And how we did that, of course, is even more fabrication. With the fabrication we used, of course, we added the nice base layer of that orangish yellow that we added. And like I was explaining, basically with no wrinkles, we had to pull it super tight. So the best place to glue first is the very middle of the ears where they would be bending, because that's where it's going to need the most kind of snug and hold so these ears don't wrinkle. So first we started out by gluing there and then adding a whole bunch of glue all over and covering these ears in their yellow patterns of fabric. And then after that, of course, you had to add the little yellow detailed parts of the ears, which are meant to be where they hear, maybe. I don't know exactly what these yellow parts are meant to be, but we had to add them to look accurate to Spring Bonnie. So we took the lighter yellow, we traced out some shapes of what would look accurate on these ears, and then we added them in there after cutting them. And finally, after a long while, we had both of our Spring Bonnie ears being nice and floppy. I mean, look how awesome and floppy these are. So I'm currently working on both jaws, the eyes, and the nose, but if you notice, they're covered in this weird white material. Well, what this is basically, it's called Mod Podge. And when you 3D print something, you can see there's a whole ton of big layer lines in it when the 3D printer goes up a layer, and it looks really ugly and messy and kind of gross. So a way that people get around this when creating cosplays or animatronics or such is they use Mod Podge. It's like a little bit of a liquid glue. So you brush it on top of all of these, and then you let it dry, and it dries into those little gaps and makes everything nice and smooth. So I've covered both jaws in this so they're smooth, the nose and the eyes, and after this it's time to paint and detail them to make them look first white colored, first paint all these white, and then cover them with some scary blood and cool effects to look just like Spring Bonnie. So now we have everything painted with the base coat, being the nose painted black, the eyes painted white, and all the teeth painted. So now it's time we add some cool, spooky, bloody details on all of it. But sadly, the problems for Spring Bonnie did not even stop there, is we only had half a jaw. I mean, you can't make an animatronic with only half a Spring Bonnie jaw. Well, what happened and why do we only have half a jaw? Basically, you can take the other half of the jaw that you already have, and since a jaw is basically the same, you can duplicate that and make it into a new half of the jaw. So we took some tinfoil and crumpled it all over the first half of the jaw to get its exact shape. Tinfoil holds its shape really well, and it looks exactly like the thing. You can push it over and stuff. And then we took some duct tape, layered that over the tinfoil so it would hold its shape. Then we took off that tinfoil and cut it up into different pieces. Then we laid that on some black foam, cut out the black foam, and tried to turn it into a jaw. And it didn't work. We don't know exactly what went wrong, but basically, it was way too big, and it doesn't look that good, but it can still work. We had to trim it down a size, and once we glued it to the other side of the jaw, it was kind of salvageable. So now that we finally had Spring Bonnie's jaw, that meant it was time for fabrication on the jaw. This was pretty easy since the jaw is just kind of long and stuff. It's not too hard. So we laid that nice golden yellow fabric over that jaw and fabricated that whole thing. After that, we had to make Spring Bonnie's eyes, which was really cool. And there's some fun techniques to make these eyes look super realistic. Since, you know, Spring Bonnie doesn't really have normal eyes. Basically, how Spring Bonnie's eyes look is they're these tiny little human eyes with all this flesh around them. Of course, that's how Into the Pit Spring Bonnie looks. Not other Spring Bonnies, but you know what I'm saying. So basically how we attempted this was first we took some of the foam that we used to carve the ears and we cut up these nice deep little hole crevices that each eye would go into. Then we filled them up with some hot glue to give it some veiny type of look, and then we covered it in a couple different shades of red. Of course we 3D printed the eyes, so those were super easy to paint that you saw me paint earlier. We added some nice little green details to them, but then to make them really look like eyes, we took them outside, glued the eyes into the red little sockets we made them, and we sprayed them down with a can of spray glue. When the spray glue dries, it looks super metallic and super shiny, and it makes the eyes look wet and fleshy and real. So that's what we did to make these realistic Spring Bonnie eyes. But we're not even done yet. Now, after we have the eyes, it's time for that sweet, sweet withering time. Now, how do you wither something like this? Honestly, it is one of the easiest parts, and it only requires two things: black paint and a big rough-ish paintbrush. And all you do is you take a little bit of black paint and put it on the end of the paintbrush and just lightly go over everything. You want to do a little more on the cracks and crevices so it looks like that, and it's just like that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy watching Spring Bonnie go from a perfectly clean animatronic into a disgusting, dirty, grimy monster. So guys, test number 3. We've made a lot of progress here, so hopefully it doesn't fail us. Spring Bonnie's head is nearly complete. So, alright, Michael, try it out.
Attention! Attention!
Please don't. Please work. Come on.
You got the skill?
Whoa! Oh my gosh. Okay. It's not. It's okay. It's not too heavy, which is great, but it definitely.
No, it's getting caught. It's because the head's not glued in yet.
Yeah, the head's not glued in, but it's getting noticeably heavier, where it has a harder time lifting it up now. So hopefully by the time we have the jaw, it isn't too heavy. Because if it is, that's a really big issue. So, let's get back to work. Now that Spring Bonnie's head was finally done, we got the 3D print, we fabricated it, we added the eyes, we made the jaw, we added the teeth, we withered it, we made everything to make this a perfect Spring Bonnie head. We're still not done because we have to customize that original machine. Now, the original claw machine, as you can see, it looks very cheap. It's a very cheap looking machine. The balls look super fake and plasticky. The back poster on it just sucks and it looks so ugly. Everything about it looks not too great. Cheap, kind of gross. So obviously if we put this much effort into Spring Bonnie and slapped him in some cheap claw machine, he'd look pretty horrible. So we gotta wither and fix up this machine. The very first thing we did was change out this cringy Find Mr. Teddy poster. I don't want this. It's a gross, ugly brown. It has a dumb little photo of a bear, and I thought, a bear? what if I make a bear poster for this? So I got an incredible Twitter artist commissioned, and I made this super awesome bear poster, and it even still has the original quote of Find Mr. Teddy, but now it says Find Spring Bonnie, with a game-accurate render of Toy Freddy looking awesome, a bright blue background, and some fun little confetti. This poster looks awesome, but that's only one very, very small part of the machine that we have to customize and fix. So after that poster, we had to work on basically everything else. The first thing we had to do was work on basically all of the fabric part down below. I wanted to cover it up with posters, but since it's originally fabric, that wouldn't work too well. So we just did the classic withering technique where we took some black paint, slathered it on there, and boom, it's a little dirty, it's a little nice. That's a nice dirty looking base. Of course, give it some more detail, add some cool splotches, even add a little hand print of paint, which looks awesome. And we had to dirty up the other sides of the claw machine, so it's a little hard to look in there. You can't see too much of Spring Bonnie. So on the inside of the machine, we painted every single like window on the machine, giving it cool withering, a cool splatter effect. Kind of looks like the FNAF 3 burn thing. And these balls look way too clean, way too bright, and way too colorful for this machine, so that got a nice coat of withering paint as well, basically making all the balls look gristly and dirty and gross, because Into the Pit says that ball pit's been sitting there forever. So we gotta make it look like this ball pit's been sitting here forever. We want these balls to look gross, we want the whole machine to look grimy, we want it to look like it's been sitting, rotting in a Freddy Fazbear's for about 20 years, so it looks game accurate. And finally, after painting all the windows, after painting the fabric, after painting the balls, this machine's looking pretty withered. But we have one more big issue that we gotta figure out. Alright, so Withered Creations, how's it looking? Oh my gosh!
So the head is almost completely
This
gone.
looks literally insane. Like, this might be the best Spring Bonnie I've ever seen. So, I mean, how'd you even do it?
Well, it's pretty simple, you know. We first started by 3D printing all the parts, minus the eye holes, where the fleshy bits are, and half the jaw, because half the jaw's print failed, so we had to, you know, make it out of foam. But yeah, everything's 3D printed, and then we just cover it with this nice fleece that can get really peeled and look really aged. And so once I finished covering with the fabric, it was simply just withering it with some black paint with some various paintbrushes, and then the teeth, you know, were painted white, the eyes were painted white, and then I went in with the specific detailing. The ears, they were made out of a nice foam, so they're nice and squishy and very much lightweight. So that's going to really help with weight distribution on the piston system that it's going to be going on. And furthermore, it has metal rods so that the ears can be posed. They do want to bounce up a little, but that's fine because it is a little spongy. And other than that, you know, the mouth can kind of move, so you can say hello there. But other than that, the head is looking pretty terrifying. It's not wanting to go down further.
So guys, we've run into a little bit of an issue right now. Everything's nearly complete, except we can't find a way to get it to pop up. Connecting the giant heavy head to this base here that's going to jump up is really hard. So we're trying a couple different solutions like cardboard or pool noodles or something, because it's got to be light enough but sturdy enough to launch it up. So that's what we're trying to figure out right now, because the hardest thing is attaching it. So hopefully we can figure out some sort of way to get him attached to this thing and it springs him up all the way. So we'll see if we figure it out. Alright guys, this might be the test to see if it works. I think this will be the final test. If it works, then we get to finish it. And if it doesn't, then we gotta fix something. So I'm really worried that it might not work. But here, let's see if it hopefully works with hands-free.
Attention! Attention! This game is now in operation.
Please don't break.
Have you got the skill?
Oh my gosh! I think it... Does it go down fine?
Fear not. He won't bite unless you reach inside.
I think it fully works. I think this is the fully working Spring Bonnie animatronic. Oh my gosh, this is amazing. So now we get to finish it off, and we can show you guys everything, the fully working Spring Bonnie. So let's do that. So guys, it is finished. we have genuinely finished the entire real Spring Bonnie claw machine. Before I show you what it looks like, at the very end of the video, I'm gonna do a giant whole demo reel show, super professional, so it looks super cool like Wicked Makers, because of course they kind of inspired this whole thing. But looking at everything, it looks incredible. So of course the machine was actually withered, so it looks nice and aged. One of my favorite things is the custom poster I got in the back. Now he kind of blocks it, but it does say find Spring Bonnie, just like the original poster said, like find teddy bear or something like that. So I got this commissioned by a really cool Twitter artist named Bond, so they did an amazing job on that. Everything else looks super cool. The claw has been withered even more. All of the sides of the machine have been withered, and of course you can see him poking out, and well, that's simply because Spring Bonnie's massive. You know, this was the head before. We smashed it to bits, but this tiny head compared to the giant Spring Bonnie head, he obviously could not fit all the way. So he permanently looks like the Into the Pit cover game, the cover art of the book and the cover of the game, where he is always poking out. You will always see him, which is such a cool detail. But when he jumps out, you see his giant teeth and jaws. So we still kept the original little ball pit hat that he had on, where it's kind of like he's hiding in there. It looks a lot better. If there was one thing I would change, I think we cut a little too much of the ball pit on the sides, at least, where there's kind of a big gap, but I mean, that's honestly not too big of a deal. Everything else about him looks absolutely incredible. There's even a little "It's Me" painted here, which was really nice. The eyes are so shiny and glossy in there to look like real eyes, and when you see him, you barely see his nose peeking out. You see both ears sticking out, and of course, everything in this video was mostly made by Michael. He created basically everything. You guys know him as Withered Creations Online, so everyone has to go follow him. His links will be in the pinned comments for helping me create this entire thing that we made in basically a day and a half. The only other thing was the print that was made before this, but otherwise, I mean, this thing was basically made in a day and a half, and it is just so impressive. It is so impressive to see this entire thing that we actually created. I did not think he would really work. So let me show you guys just what he does. I'll show a more professional thing of how he jumps out. But oh my gosh, look at the claw move. Oh, and look at him. Look, and then, oh my gosh, he is so cool. I love the way he jumps out, and he goes back in perfectly. Oh, he is incredible. So of course he does not shoot out as fast as the original bear did, because this bear weighed like nothing. I mean, you know, it's just super light, flimsy plastic. The whole bear head was just that, and here it is. And here's the shredded dead bear now with no bear eyes or nothing. So before, this weighed nothing, so when it would jump up, it'd go, you know, it'd almost fly out. But now he weighs a lot. You can see how massive this Spring Bonnie head is. He weighs a lot more, so it's still super awesome that he is like this and he jumps up. But obviously he doesn't like fly out of the pit. It's still so cool seeing, and he jumps and he bobbles forward. I mean, look at the side view as he goes back in. He works perfectly. He works so much better than I ever could have hoped. It is, oh my gosh, it is so cool. So now I think we might show you guys a demo reel.
Hide if you want. It did not save the others. It will not save you. I always come back.
So guys, that is it for this video. I really hope you guys did enjoy seeing me and Withered Creations create this entire real-life Five Nights at Freddy's Into the Pit Spring Body Machine. So if you guys did enjoy this video, please let me know by subscribing. I would appreciate it a lot. And let me know in the comments if you guys want me to keep making more animatronics. If you guys like this enough, I know I had such a fun time. Me and Withered, we would love to create even more animatronics if possible. So it would be super awesome. Maybe we build something bigger. Maybe we build something from the FNAF movie. Who knows? We have some ideas, and it'd be really cool if we could build something like that. So let me know in the comments, and definitely make sure you subscribe because this thing took quite a while to make, like, you know, all that time and stuff. So I really hope you guys did enjoy, and I will see you all later. Good